And I hope you learn a lot of useful and important tips. And with that, I would like to introduce our special guest, Blake Freedom. And I can tell that, hi, Blake, welcome.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
This is amazing. And I will tell that in the United States, 20 million of women and 10 million of men suffer from clinically significant eating disorder during their lives. And many cases unlikely to be reported. People just don't speak about it and they hold inside themselves. And overall, the treatment for eating and eating disorder is so costly and so complex. It's just hard to motivate. And you are expert. You are really made through so many things and learn interesting techniques. So I would like to see if you can please tell your name, your full name, and where are you located, as well as share your story and experience.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Blake Freedom, and I live in Denver, Colorado. And like you were saying, a lot of men and women struggle with eating disorders, and that's my personal story. So I struggled with anorexia, orthorexia for almost 2 decades. Eating disorders are a lot of, one thing that people don't always realize is that eating disorder is a mental illness, and it's a very mental and emotional disease that we live with in our mind. And so I remember the day that I created my eating disorder when I was very young. I grew up around a lot of violence in the home, a lot of trauma, and it was a way for me to separate from that experience so that I could feel safe. So growing up, it kind of became this friend that I lived with in my head that was this voice that was kind of comfort. And as I got older, the eating habits and the coping mechanisms started showing up. So I went through high school and middle school really struggling with being bullied. I was scouted as a model, so I was really trying to fit into the expectations, which back then were very different than today. Thankfully, a lot has changed. And I was binging and purging in high school and hiding it from everyone. It was so ingrained in me that I didn't even realize that I had it and was struggling with it until I was in my early 20s. And I was so sick, I thought, oh, I must have mono, like something's not right, but oh, I'll just go to urgent care and have them check me out. And the doctor told me that I was very malnourished and that I had all the symptoms of anorexia. And my first response was, oh my God, but I'm too fat to be anorexic. And that was me at my lowest weight. And that was an example of the body dysmorphia that many women struggle with, whether they do or don't have a diagnosed eating disorder. So many women struggle with not seeing how beautiful that they are in the mirror and having this disassociation in their mind. And that was a big wake-up call for me. However, I went back into denial. It was something that I didn't really want to deal with. And I see this a lot with a lot of women is it's so difficult to admit that we have a problem, especially when it's something as difficult and severe as this. And unfortunately, it took me reaching my rock bottom before I actually sought help. So it was several months later when a series of events happened. I ended up homeless. I was living out of my car. I was struggling in every way imaginable. And I had decided that I wanted to end my life. And I had been suicidal growing up my whole life. I just didn't feel like I fit in. I didn't want to be on the planet. Like I said, I was horribly bullied. And I finally just decided, today's the day. And as I was approaching that moment, something came over me and I realized, oh my gosh, if I do this, I'm not going to come back. Like this is permanent. And I had this moment of clarity where I realized I want to live, but I knew I had no idea how. So that was the night that I reached out and I found a treatment center that I felt would really help me totally heal, because I am a huge proponent in a holistic approach. So mind, body, spirit. And I knew that I needed to address all of the trauma that I had been through in order to fully heal. And so that was the beginning of my journey. I now am 10 years recovered. I experienced myself as a fully recovered woman. I struggled with a cannabis addiction for 10 years and I'm fully healed and sober from that. So I've been helping women heal from eating disorders and addiction for many years now. And I just feel so blessed to be doing this work. And, EFT tapping is my favorite tool in the entire world that I've used to help with that trauma healing. So I'm so grateful to be able to be here and share my story.
This is very, very helpful because especially I think it covers all generations. We know that's from, young girls and, later in age. But to have this special, and I like how you mentioned about, freedom, the technique, tapping technique. And I heard about it. I've never used it. And can you share some of it? I think it's just such a, low cost and inexpensive and such approachable. Feels like maybe we can do it at home. What can you share with us?
Yes. So EFT tapping is, it stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. So if you've ever seen anybody doing this, it's becoming more popular. It's been featured on the Dr. Oz show, other shows like that. And it's basically a self-applicable anti-anxiety and anti-stress tool. And it's amazing because what we're doing is we're tapping on specific points on the body to activate our nervous system. It's a cousin of acupressure, which is related to acupuncture. So we're activating different energy systems in the body. And so when we tap on these specific points, we're actually activating the amygdala in the brain. And then that's sending a message to our nervous system. So when we're in fight or flight mode, because we're either having an anxiety attack or we're triggered because, something's coming up about past trauma, or any type of situation where we feel like we're in fight or flight because our brain thinks that we're in danger, the sympathetic nervous system is activated. So tapping is amazing because it activates the opposite part of our nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, and it forces the body into a state of calm, rest, relaxation, reset. And it's wonderful because in those moments where we're having anxiety and panic, which unfortunately is part of the society that we live in, it's a tool that we can use in the moment, anywhere we are, anytime we are. It's completely free. All you need is the tips of your fingers. It's a very simple technique. And it's just so simple. And for me, because, growing up with mental health and being in environments that weren't, conducive to my growth as a person and just developing and becoming healthy, I had a lot of anxiety and a lot of panic attacks, and I never knew how to deal with them. And so as I learned tapping, I'm able to apply it in the moment so I don't even have to think about it. Because sometimes when we're in that state of anxiety and stress, we're not able to recognize, oh, let me breathe, let me take deep breaths, let me pull my tools, because your mind has gone offline. So it's a super simple tool. And then in addition to using it for anxiety and stress, I'm a huge believer in using it for trauma. So I really feel like it's so important for us to understand when it comes to coping mechanisms and addiction and eating disorders that we absolutely must look at the core issues, which is our trauma, because these are coping mechanisms. And my belief is that it's not something that you have to struggle with forever. You're not always in recovery. If you truly get to the core of your issues and you heal them and you heal that trauma and you remove that trauma from the body and you deal with the emotional and mental component, that it can completely relieve itself and you no longer even deal with it at all. So tapping is wonderful for moving through trauma without being re-traumatized, because no one wants to sit through and talk about all the stuff that happened to them, right? It's not comfortable, it's not enjoyable, but tapping is great because it's activating the calm aspect of our nervous system. It allows us to separate from the memory and remove the energy part. So then it becomes like you're just watching it on the screen of a TV and you don't feel attached to it anymore. So you can actually release trauma without re-traumatizing yourself. Mm-hmm. So that's just a basic. I know that I'm explaining a lot about it, but I love to teach it, and there's access to a free training on my website. But it's such a wonderful tool, and I love using it on so many different things, but anxiety and trauma are probably the two that I use it for the most.
Thank you for sharing this. And it feels like right now I'm also going to sit and actually go into tap, especially now once we have a broadcast live. So thank you. I think it helps actually in any situation. And it's very interesting how you seem so strong and you've done so many things. And who was any person specific or maybe coach or advisor or someone led you into this? Sometimes we just kind of waiting until we have a certain trigger or we meet someone, but does it really need, or we can do within ourselves? Did you have anyone?
That's a great question. So before, when I was in my eating disorder in my 20s, before I was really aware that I was sick, because it was just such a normal way of life for me, I saw The Secret when The Secret came out. I know that many of us have seen that movie. And someone that really spoke to me was Joe Vitale, Dr. Joe Vitale. And he was the guy with the beads. And he's actually who introduced me to EFT tapping. So it was really exciting for me because, you know, I'm very open and I like to learn new things. And I was like, what is this interesting tool? And so I started using that on just like little things and was just kind of getting to know it. And then when I went into treatment, they actually taught us EFT for our aftercare. And I was so excited because I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm already using this tool. And that is actually what helped me to learn it in a more intuitive way and to master it in my own way. I mean, I've been using it for 12 years, teaching it for a decade. And that really empowered me to do the work on myself. So I'm able to deal with my triggers as they come up, to deal with the pains as they come up. But what I will say is that when it comes to healing something like an eating disorder or an addiction or things like that, there's usually a breaking point. And I wish that I could say that, you know, you could wake up one day and just decide, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. But typically it takes getting to a point where the situation and environment has come to a point where you just can't go on the way that you are anymore. And it brings you almost to your knees. And, you know, you have to be fully committed to healing in order to heal. But the good thing is that you absolutely can. And that's what I really want every woman and man struggling out there to hear, is that it is 100% possible. You do not have to struggle for life. You do not have to be in recovery forever. You can fully recover. You just have to make that decision that you do want to do it. And once you decide, the universe will rearrange itself to bring you all of the opportunities, all of the tools, all of the healers, all of the medicine, everything that you need to make it happen. We are such powerful creators, and I think we underestimate the power that we have to bring what we need into our reality. And I also believe that everything that happens to us is for a reason. If I hadn't gone through all of those things, it wouldn't have brought me to the place I am today, where I'm able to share my story and I'm able to understand women in a way that people who haven't been through this don't understand them. I have a lot of women come to me who've worked with therapists and other people who haven't been through the experience, and so I can relate in a different way. But it absolutely is 100% possible to fully recover and to live a free life and to be someone who even never had that problem because it's so far removed. It's just a matter of making the decision. It sounds simple, but it's so powerful.
Yeah, thank you. And we definitely learn. And you're so, powerful, so strong. And I wish, all audience connect with you, because we do need to learn those little tips and nuggets and something, because everything is so right now expensive and so difficult with access. And especially the last year, we learned so much. And that's where I found that, sharing her story, and when the Her Story movement was brought in, we realized, and that movement was born originally in Wilmington in New Zealand, and now it's spreading across the world. So thank you so much, Blake, for joining us. And I really enjoy it. And I hope you can join us again and we can learn more about your story, because I feel like easy tapping technique, it's something that, we can do at home. Now I am already sitting and tapping. So thank you. And is any, yes, and the last, what are last words of wisdom, if you can share with us?
Absolutely. So I just think that one thing that we need to remember, especially as women, and like Christy was saying, very ambitious, A-level women, is self-compassion. Pay attention to the way that you're talking to yourself in your mind, listen to your thoughts, be loving with yourself, talk to yourself like you would talk to a child. We are all so deserving of love, no matter where you're at in your life, no matter what you've done, what you've been through, you are so worthy of love. So give that to yourself, because it starts with you. And secondly, try EFT tapping. Go to my website. I have an amazing free program for you. I will teach you what it is, how it works, how to use it, the science and the evidence, and amazing healing. So it changed my life. It can change yours. And I just thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you very much, Blake. And please stay with us. We will join by the end of the hour, and I will see you soon.
Okay.